Fellow viewers, it is with a heavy heart that we proceed with today's episode. We have promised from day one to give our viewers genuine and credible information. We continue to stimulate debate, arguing that it is a healthy way to do battle. That being said, it was our fervent wish that Cameroon will be basking in peace by this time. Unfortunately, the situation is lamentable, disgraceful, and gut-wrenching. The time for sugarcoating is over. The absolute truth is paramount and must be said. I am Theodore Ngumba, and these are my thoughts on the Anglophone struggle. It is fair to argue that every country has systemic problems. Some governments have adequately approached the problem, some have failed. In the case of Cameroon, the government is clearly in denial and oblivious to the facts on the ground. The fact of the matter is that the onus is on the government to solve the country's problems, to manage diversity, to ensure justice, peace, and development. Alas, the Cameroonian government is now failing woefully. The government is yet to acknowledge that it was the brutish savagery displayed by its soldiers and security forces that escalated the situation. When unarmed teachers and lawyers' demands for justice were met by gun barrels, bullets, truncheons, rape, torture, and prison, the same government had laid the foundation of its own undoing and written a death sentence for thousands of its own citizens. So it is crystal clear that before pointing accusing fingers at any entity for the abysmal situation of the country, the first step must be to index the government for its woeful handling of the situation. Anything short of that will be tantamount to intellectual and political dishonesty. The same government, under the leadership of the octogenarian Paul Biya, aggravated an already bad situation by appointing two of the more unpopular Anglophones in the persons of Paul Atanganji and Nalova Lyonga to ministerial positions. The same government, in another counterproductive move, abusively denied Julius Ayoktabe and his fellow prisoners their constitutional rights by keeping them incommunicado for months. Meanwhile, captured Boko Haram terrorists and others guilty of embezzling hefty amounts from government's coffers have had their day in court. If this is not a double standard, then mangoes must grow on palm trees. Issa Chiruma, the lying tilapia himself, was imprisoned after the coup d'etat of April 1984. But today, he shamelessly tries to justify in front of cameras why the government has the right to openly disregard the law and treat Anglophones arrested like second-class citizens. The Cameroonian government could not provide markets to farm roads for its citizens, but can today spend enormous amounts of money waging a war in these same enclaved villages, even as the economy continues to take a beating due to the crisis. Finally, for Paul Biya to even dare to think of running for president at 85 years of age is sending a strong message. He is senile and has a world-class case of dementia and amnesia combined. His professed love for the country is as fake as a $30 bill. He is scared of what might happen to him if he left power. He is a megalomaniac without an iota of doubt. Either way, the country does not and will never belong to him. After him, that land will still exist and probably stand stronger. To all who continue to support Paul Biya, who has now surpassed Amadou Ahidjo as the country's #1 henchman, it is never too late to accept the truth. Biya inherited a peaceful and prosperous nation, but his legacy of laziness, abject failure, and evil is clear as daylight. To all who still believe in the federation or decentralization options, are you waiting for yours or a relative's death to come to terms with the reality? To the IG, you can continue playing games with people's money without any accountability, but rest assured, you all will be brought to book when the time comes. Instead of fulfilling your promise of working for the people, you pay yourselves hefty salaries and fly and lodge in nice hotels for doing no work. All members of the IG must declare their sources of income. It is clear that the IG has become a friendship club where the spoils are casually shared among themselves. The IG is turning out to be just as terrible as the same regime the people want no more. Matter of fact, the IG should be dissolved completely and Ground Zero empowered. Ground Zero has been able to withstand the storm thanks to benevolent contributions from well-wishers and not the failed IG. Our investigations show that it is the local communities who have supported foot soldiers to the greatest extent, from hunters donating their den guns to fighters and much more. Ground soldiers have been unable to use captured firearms because of lack of ammunition. The IG and all other groups claiming to be supporting self-defense have not accounted for 10% of what is actually being used on the ground. People must also know that there are many different ways to assist besides cash. The dreadful living conditions beg for tents, shoes, clothing, and more importantly, medicines. Many will eventually die, not from bullets, but from typhoid and malaria. There is a pressing need for water purifying pills, bug repellents, and first aid kits in the bush. How come young boys are fighting, for example, with no shoes? Meanwhile, substantial amounts of money have been contributed to their cause. It is the lack of such basic necessities that have pushed some into ignoble acts such as theft, robbery, and harassment. To imagine that, even under such lamentable conditions, these boys are willing to sacrifice their lives for all, even those who are only good at calling themselves Dr. This or Dr. That, Pastor This and Pastor That. Power belongs to Ground Zero, and that should be the focus now. Empower thy people. Enough of the social media grandstanding. A trustworthy channel must exist such that people can send what they can, either in cash or in kind, and have confidence that their contributions are serving the rightful purpose. Our brothers and sisters should not be relegated to wild beasts in the bushes feeding on fruits and roots, while the IG continues to do more talking than action. It is a shame that some activists have resorted to score settling, sending armed groups to threaten businessmen and extorting money, even though these people have contributed mightily towards the struggle. Now, Eric Tato has been coming up with a list of individuals who eventually end up kidnapped, most glaring of which is the kidnapping of Fako chiefs. I want you all to listen.
Let me say this. I say a lot of things in one thing. Now, listen to me. For all the Fakoti or the Biya chiefs that have been arrested, it is in accordance. The arrest is justified. Those are very wicked people. And listen, let me tell you, the reason why you see Chimjombe and the other chiefs, they are still there, is because of me.
It is with a heavy heart and alarm that I mention Chief Mbandanjie, who gave up the ghost in the hands of his captors. He was clearly tortured and allowed to perish slowly under hellish living conditions. May his soul and that of all unarmed civilians who have died rest in peace. The perpetrators of this vicious act must know that not only have they killed an unarmed civilian, but they have defiled Bakweri tradition and African culture. This sacrilegious act will not go unpunished. By no means are we saying that the life of a chief is more important than that of any other individual. But kidnappings must be decried. Even worse is the excuse that the chief sacrificed virgins. Well, since those who make such claims seem to know so much, we challenge them to provide names and locations. Who are you fooling when you make a video of a kidnapped chief? As if we expect them to say anything other than what they have been told.
Yeah, this morning this morning I was opportunity to go to the hut where the chief was being kept. Unfortunately, I met him on ill health, and we alerted the medical team of the Amazonian forces, and along the way, he gave up his ghost. It is very unfortunate that such a thing happened.
You say you are investigating the chiefs. We wonder if you can also let us hold you against your will under brutal living conditions because we are investigating you. Nonsense. Mind you, our chiefs have always been symbols of our tradition from ancestral times. Therefore, it is our people, our ancestors, tradition, and the rule of the law that has been violated. The rage alone of those dead and gone is enough to ensure perpetual darkness for the masterminds of such a poisonous undertaking. Eric Tato, as you initiated such a venomous project, you will face the music. Since your misbegotten venture to kick Francophones out of Southern Cameroon has failed miserably, have you now resorted to taking your anger out on Anglophones? Do not mistake your apartment for the White House because it has white walls. Maybe after the beating you received from Mr. Ako Are in Manfe, your brain needs to be rearranged. You and your vassals, beware. The pressure and heat that was mounted has led to the release of all the Fako chiefs. However, these releases do not exonerate the criminals. These villains must be worried because nobody has monopoly of violence. Fellow Southern Cameroonians, be aware that the logistics, manpower, and financial resources may be in the process of being gathered that will drastically change the ground game. Moves that may make the IG's lame ground game look really elementary. Let he who has ears listen. The self-defense option is number one, but all who have used the struggle to harass, torment, torture, extort, and kill our own brothers will not go unpunished. As per the Tapang Ivo lawsuit money, some have questioned our credibility on this issue. Court records show that Tapang is yet to disburse a penny. Tapang will pay, even if it means we will have to use sheriffs or marshals to seize his personal property as permitted by the law. If we have to take shoes off his feet, so be it. If it means showing up at World Financial Group, his place of employment, the refugees' money must be paid. To all who contributed to his GoFundMe to pay off his debt, the cash may have been swindled again. The chumps, Vela Franklin, Yannick Sikot, and Karin Defon alias Desi Sonny Kudi, who decided to side with Dingbat Tapang, even knowing his thieving ways, should continue their tomfoolery. Within the next 4 weeks, the court judgment will reflect on his personal credit records and will last 10 years. Tapang, the bogus Red Dragon, will be back in a Houston courtroom, come rain, come sun. Thank you all kindly for watching. Stay tuned and see you next time.